I've been meaning to pick up a cabin ball revolver for some time now. Recently, at a tag sale, I found this Remington 1858 for just $. When it's that cheap, you don't ask too many questions. This is a replica, of course, made by Pietta in Italy. It was made in 2013, according to the state code. The issue with it is that it's completely locked up. The hammer won't cock back, and as a result, I can't test the cylinder movement, nor the trigger. The only thing I can move is the loading lever. Looking it over though, it can't be too bad. It just looks like it wasn't cleaned after the last time it was shot. The rear of the cylinder and the nipples are corroded and rusty. The front of the cylinder and forcing cone look the same. There's rust around the front sight, and of course in the bore as well. But again, nothing is too bad. It just looks neglected. Before cleaning though, I'll first remove the grips so that no solvents or oils damage their finish. A few taps with a soft mallet breaks them free. Then I'll add a rag underneath the revolver. I'm going to use Croyle penetrating oil on all the areas where rust is present, adding a generous amount on either side, on the rear of the cylinder. Inside the frame, around the base of the hammer, and the outside as well. Then finally the front of the cylinder, and the loading lever for good measure. This will hopefully eat away at the rust that's causing everything to seize up. I'll give it at least a few hours to creep its way down inside everything. I'll clean any excess oil off of the revolver. Now I'll see if I can work the hammer. No surprise, I'm not able to break it free with just my thumb. I'll give it a few taps with a mallet. The hammer is now free, but it's not moving back enough to go into even half cock. This must be because the cylinder is also stuck. This is a bit awkward, since I'm trying to not damage the finish. I'm using a strip of leather and smooth jawed pliers. I also need to hold the hammer back in order to lower the cylinder stop. The cylinder isn't turning at all though. I think I need to drive out the cylinder pin. To do that, I'll remove the loading lever, just so that it's out of the way. Then hold the revolver in the vise. The cylinder pin should easily slide forward. This head here is meant to be pulled by hand, but like much of the revolver, it's stuck. I'm just now realizing that instead of the pin moving from right to left, the head is bending back and forth. These pins are two pieces, the pin and the head. I don't want to break it apart. I'll have to drive out the cylinder pin another way. I'll need to disassemble the whole revolver. This screw tensions the mainspring. I'll just back it off. I won't remove it. I'll take out the spring later. Next I'll remove the trigger guard. Next is the trigger spring. I can see a fine layer of corrosion inside the frame, likely a sign of more to come. Next to be removed is the trigger screw, followed by the trigger. then the cylinder stop. With the grip area of the frame held more securely, I can tap out the mainspring. Finally, the hammer screw can be removed. But before the hammer itself can come out, the hand needs to be separated from it. The hand comes out the bottom, then the hammer out the top. Here's the bare revolver frame, with only the cylinder and cylinder pin. The other end of the pin is located here. I'll use a punch to drive it forwards. I'll get it held securely in the vise. I'll give the cylinder pin a few gentle taps. That's not budging though. I feel like a broken record saying how stuck everything is. Some more coil while it's in this position can't hurt. But after pounding, one thing seems to have been freed. I noticed that the cylinder has some play in it now, and when it moves, so does the pin. I'll use the pliers to see if I can get it freed up. That didn't sound good. That was the end of the cylinder pin. It sheared off. So the pin is stuck in the cylinder. Turning the cylinder broke off the end of the pin that was preventing it from being turned. The plus side is that with it gone, the cylinder is spinning freely now. It seems to get looser with each go at it. I could stop here, reassemble everything, and get this shooting, but I want to do what I can to remove the cylinder. I'll get this set up in my 3-ton arbor press. The blocks are supporting the front of the cylinder in order to take the frame out of the equation. It's just in the way. And here is where I screw up. I'm not perfect, and I try and show all of my mistakes in these videos. From my perspective, behind the frame, this punch is aligned perfectly vertical. From the camera's perspective, it's obviously not. I don't see the punch flexing, and I don't foresee this. The punch slipped off of the pin. And from the fall, the revolver picked up a few gouges. Lesson learned, and I need to move forward from it. Worst of all though, the once free spinning cylinder is no longer moving so easily. That's because when the punch slipped, it deformed the end of the cylinder pin. It'll only move freely in this area. I'll use a punch through the bottom of the frame to push the metal back in place. That made it a bit better, but it still won't spin freely. But this won't help me remove the cylinder pin, since it doesn't want to go out the front anyway. Instead, I'll stand up the revolver and center punch the middle of the pin. That rarely works the first time, so I'll walk it in. The pin will need to be drilled out. After the incident with the press, I'm hyper aware of how straight I'm drilling, and I'm stopping every so often to double check. Still, I'm using a bit that's smaller than the pin, just in case it's not perfectly centered. I've drilled about an inch deep. I shouldn't have to drill the entire pin out. I'll give it a try with the punch now that some pressure's been relieved. That finally seems to be moving. I'll flip it over so we can see it coming out. It's finally out. You can see that the drill stayed fairly centered. And after all that, the cylinder just pops right out. Now that the cylinder is free, the focus shifts to cleaning all of the parts. For being as stuck as it was, the cylinder doesn't look very corroded. At the back, at the front, or within any of the individual chambers. Although this isn't fully disassembled just yet, the nipples at the rear are still in place. Those see the most corrosion from the black powder, so before even attempting to remove them, I'll pour oil down each of the chambers and let it collect at the bottom. I'll let this soak for a few days at least. In order to clean the rest of the parts, I'll get them into a plastic bag. That will go into the ultrasonic cleaner. I like to use simple green. Most often I'll dilute it, but with how corroded some of the parts are, I'll use it full strength here. Then seal it up, and let it work for around 10 minutes. With all of the parts out of the ultrasonic cleaner, I'm going to scrub them down with a mixture of ballistol and water, which some people call moose milk. For how stuck everything was, there really isn't much in the way of corrosion. The ultrasonic cleaner seems to have taken care of whatever crud was locking everything up. I'll also scrub the frame, a bit more diligently since I wasn't able to fit it in the ultrasonic. That seems to be an advantage to the Colt cap and ball revolvers. They break down much smaller than this Remington does. With everything scrubbed, I'll hold the frame in the vise. I'm going to reassemble everything. Well, almost everything. The cylinder will have to wait. I'm lubricating all of the parts with a light coating of straight ballistol. With the hammer and hand installed, I'll work the mainspring in and tension it. Next comes the cylinder stop, and a screw for the trigger goes through both it and the stop, making it tricky to align. This small flat spring immediately tensions both. Next up is the trigger guard, which covers the internals. Then comes the loading lever. Last for now are the grips. With most of the parts installed, I can test the function for the first time. The hammer goes into half cock. The cylinder stop is down, and the hand is just barely visible. At full cock, the hand is up all the way, and the cylinder stop is raised. Then I can let the hammer down. This feels really good. Everything is as smooth as it should be. One thing I haven't shown yet is the bore. With how stuck everything was, I expected this to be bad. But with all the other internals relatively clean, so is the bore. I'm not even going to bother cleaning this. It's been a few days, and that's enough time for the cylinder to soak. Because these arrived in the mail. First is the replacement cylinder pin. Next is a wrench to remove the nipples. And then replacement nipples themselves. These are stainless steel from Slick Shot. Nipples are wear parts on black powder revolvers, so I decided instead of fussing with the originals, to just replace them. I'll hold the cylinder in the vise. The ends of the nipples have flats on either side. You can see how the slot in the nipple wrench fits. I have the cylinder in the vise because I'm going to be leaning into the wrench to ensure that it doesn't slip off. But that's stuck. Hopefully with a bit of leverage I can get it to turn. And that's doing the job. Although it's broken free, it's still tight enough that I can't turn it by hand. Now it's finally loose enough to unscrew by hand. And that's what it looks like. The threads have a light coating of rust that's binding everything up. I imagine the other 5 will be just as hard to remove. This is a better way of applying pressure. I'm leaning on the socket driver on the left, pushing the wrench against the nipples, then turning with another driver. With all of the nipples removed, you can see why I'm replacing them. The flash hole is small, very susceptible to fouling and corrosion. These replacements won't be, since they're stainless. But before I install them, I'll clean the threads in the end of the cylinder so that they go in easily. And more importantly, they'll be easy to remove later on. I'll also clean out the central hole, since this was rusted to the cylinder pin originally. With the nipples installed, I'll spray some ballistol on the new cylinder pin. The cylinder is sliding and spinning freely. Now to get this installed in the frame. The screw for the loading lever prevents the cylinder pin from sliding out, so it will need to be removed to get it installed. Now to function test. With the hammer on half cock, the cylinder still spins easily, and is properly advancing with each pull of the hammer. Lowering the loading lever allows the cylinder pin to slide forward, just enough for the cylinder to be removed. I won't actually remove it, but it can be. The cylinder stop is working well. It's preventing the cylinder from moving as it's fired. The revolver working means that it's time to test it at the range. I have everything I need to fire it. Real 3F black powder, a powder measure with a 25 grain spout, .454 round balls, Crisco, which I'll use in place of boar butter, and finally caps, both number 10 and number 11s. Loading a cap and ball revolver is a process. I'll start by filling a chamber with the powder charge. Then I'll add the ball, rotating the cylinder under the ram, and ramming it down firmly on top of the powder. Then the process repeats 5 times. Once all 6 chambers have been loaded, I'll add Crisco on top of each ball. This is a bit thin, so it would be better served mixed with some beeswax, but it still works. The purpose is to provide lube in the barrel, and also to seal the chamber to prevent a chain fire, which is the spark of the chamber being fired, jumping to another chamber, and setting that off. In reality, a proper fitting ball will seal the chamber. It will have a small ring of lead shaved off as it's pressed in. The final step before firing is to add the caps. I'll first try the number 11 caps, since they were recommended to work with these nipples. Then it's ready to fire. I'll draw it back after each shot, so that the spent caps fall out easier. Back inside on the workbench, this video isn't over yet, because the lesson learned here is to clean your black powder firearms after shooting if you don't want them to end up like the revolver was at the start of the video. I'll start by pouring hot water down the bore and the cylinder. Then I'll scrub with moose milk and re-lube with ballistol. This is by no means a thorough cleaning. This represents the bare minimum one should do after shooting a black powder revolver. Every other or so range trip, I'll disassemble the cylinder, remove the nipples, and throw them in the ultrasonic cleaner. To clean even further, every few sessions I'll take apart the entire revolver, just like I did earlier, and clean every single part. The quick version of the cleaning process should only take about 15 minutes. The more thorough cleaning would only be about an hour or so. That isn't much of a commitment to ensure that the firearm remains in serviceable condition. Because if you don't clean, well, we all saw the results. Thanks for watching.